Turning back now to the coverage on the wildfires ravaging the West Coast, there are now more than 100 fires burning across the region, forcing thousands to flee the flames and their homes. Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano in Eugene, Oregon for more on this. So give us a sense, Lilia, of what you're seeing in Portland. It's funny. I was just thinking just this morning how there's been so much coverage about Portland and protests. Meanwhile, these wildfires have been building and building, and particularly getting very close to some suburbs in Portland. What are you seeing?
And that's really interesting because, yes, we did have to shift gears from, covering the protests and being tear gassed and now dealing with this threat in the air. Where I am in Eugene, Anne-Marie, has one of the worst air qualities in the world right now. When I checked this morning, just to give you an idea, the air quality here was about 4 times worse than Shanghai, or rather than Mumbai, and about 8 times worse than Shanghai. It's crazy, the numbers in the air quality index. Here, what you see around me, this is not fog. I mean, you would imagine, well, it's morning, it's foggy. It's not. This is just smoke. And it's at a hazardous level. Behind me, these street lights were just turned off, and it's 8:30 a.m. I was talking to somebody who's from Oregon and telling me that this is usually a very busy area downtown. People are grabbing coffee, but everything is closed. As you can see, there's just no one sitting around. Last night, just anecdotally, I was looking for a restaurant to eat, and we are all used to COVID closing down the inside of restaurants. Well, here it's more dangerous to sit outside, so the restaurants only open inside. And the other thing that's interesting is that it's cold. I mean, it's been warm all these days. Of course, heat was one of the factors, one of the elements that was worsening the wildfires. But it's cold this morning because, of course, the sun is not getting through. I talked to a meteorologist from the Weather Service, and he was saying that, well, usually here this would be unusual, Oregon and this area would be unusually warm, and that has been the pattern. But because of the amount of smoke contained in the air, the sun is not getting in, and now it's in the 50s. It should be at least 10 or more degrees higher. And this comes from the National Weather Service. So it's just very unusual. People are, the people I've come across with are trying to stay inside, and that is what authorities are telling people: stay inside. If you're in your car, keep, the air cycling, and try to always be masked, which of course we're used to because of COVID.
Yeah, and you just touched on something that I wanted to ask you about. We've been seeing sort of all those orange and red skies, and we spoke to our meteorologist, and he talked about the fact that you see that sort of at sunrise because of the way the sun's light is being filtered through all the smoke and everything that's in the air. But now things are gray, and you talked about the fact that it's better to be inside the restaurant than it is to be outside. When it comes to health officials, what are they telling people about the concerns about the air quality?
I mean, that's exactly what they're saying. They're saying, stay inside as much as possible. If you're in your car, just keep the AC cycling. Don't open the vents. The thing that's happening here, and one of the reasons why this is the case and why there's so much smoke, which is good for the spread of the fire, is that wind has died down. So wherever you're standing, it's not like wind is blowing. And that should be the case after a wildfire. That was contributing to the spread of the fire and would push the smoke away. But we're in a valley where, of course, once the smoke gets in, if there's no wind, you're pretty much stuck. So, wear masks, stay indoors. And of course, there's a lot of people who've been evacuated. So follow those instructions. There's 500,000 Oregonians that have had to leave their homes. So the other concern that I find, very unique in this situation is the state and the county are opening county grounds, and they're opening colleges and spaces for people to take their cars or RVs to be able to evacuate. But of course, you're now dealing with people crowded in some cases open spaces, but in some cases in shelters that are indoors. And we all know the threat that poses to being in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, of course. You can't have people, right next to each other the way they used to in a school gym or something along those lines. And of course, you have
Right.
sort of a small army of firefighters also working around the clock that would have been housed in different facilities or perhaps hotels, and they're not going to be able to be housed in the same manner, I presume. Yeah, the COVID has complicated so many things. In regards to the people who have been evacuated, we're talking about 10% of the state's population. They've been told that they need to leave. Where do they go from here? Is there a possibility that some will be able to return home shortly? What do we know about just the state of things for them?
What's interesting about the magnitude of the challenges that this state is facing right now, it's unique, is that they can't really communicate. They can't deal with media as much as they would in a situation that they can handle. This is completely out of reach. So we don't know how long it'll take for people to be able to go back to their homes if their homes were not destroyed. Yes, I got yesterday to meet several people whose homes were destroyed and they have no idea where to go. A lot of them were in southern Oregon in a working Latino family community where they were able to go to their family members' homes. I met people who went to their kids' homes. I met people who are staying in hotels. Usually the state will take care of that initially, and this is just from past experiences that I've seen. But right now, people are just going to these county fairgrounds or going to the colleges that are provided as pop-up shelters or emergency evacuation centers, and eventually they'll make it back home. But who knows when? These fires are growing. Two of the largest fires right now, including the one that's threatening this area, are being joined because that's the right thing to do according to the resources that the state has at hand to fight those fires. So the situation is very volatile. It's hard to say when people in which area are going to be able to go back home. And of course, with this air quality, they might as well stay away.
Totally. And, I know we keep bringing this up, but you layer on everything that COVID brings, and which was already tough enough for the area. It's just, my prayers go out to the people there because it's going to be probably a long haul indeed. Lilia, thank you so much for your coverage.
Thank you.